Hello, everyone. Welcome to the SmartTech Spotlight, where we spotlight our partners and people that are making really great moves in the industry. We're excited today to be meeting with Gianfranco from Channable. He is one of the product leads out in Channable, out in New York with Channable, and we're excited to be able to have him on the podcast today, talk about some challenges that we're seeing with Google as of recently, and some pretty cool updates that they're doing back of their system. Gianfranco, say hello to the audience.
Hi, everyone. Hi, Brian. Thanks so much for having me. My name is Gianfranco Nusqueze. I've been with Channable for about 2 years now. I'm a senior technical support specialist, but I do wear a lot of different hats here on the US team. I'm also located in New York, like you mentioned, and I'm really happy to be here to talk about Channable's new features and kind of some of the bread and butter features that Channable has, fixing promotional text and making sure everything is optimized for Google.
Love it. Yeah, we got introduced to Channable about a year and a half ago, maybe even 2 years now. And we had a company that we were supporting out of Spain. And we were originally looking at going to Feedonomics with them. And, I had said, hey, if we're going to be looking at changing you guys to Feedonomics, let me take a look at your guys' current feed management and just see what's being done, because I don't know this Channable company. And, I don't want to recommend a change to a different service if I'm not understanding what it is you're coming from, right? So we got in touch with Meslin, and they basically said, yeah, we're using this company called Channable. You're welcome to take a look, basically. So I got in contact with you guys, and I said, hey, I'm looking at changing our client over to Feedonomics. I need you to tell me why I shouldn't do that. And the team was like, well, there's a lot we can do. And so they started giving me a demo. They started showing me some of the features. And as a measure of example, we had actually had a client that needed to have their prices dynamically show in the data feed in the actual search ads. And going through Feedonomics, it was like a $500 a month minimum to be able to even support that. And it was going to be a disaster to try to get campaigns built. And so I was like, okay, this is interesting. And I saw that Channable had this great feature where they could actually take the data feed, leverage the dynamic features of the data feed to be able to create search ads. And if we needed to update pricing 4 times a day, the system would review it and make those updates in the search campaigns. It blew me away. I was like, okay, I have to have this. This is a must have. So talk to me about, your guys' company. What is it that Channable does that is so different than the standard right now, which is like Go Data Feed, Feedonomics, who's kind of become a bit of a namesake in the industry for data feed management. And you guys are kind of a newer, scrappier European version, I would say, that has a lot better features, a lot better support, and a lot better engagement as far as the progress you're making. Talk to me about how Channable is kind of coming to the market. What are you guys doing that, helps set yourselves apart from kind of the riffraff that we're seeing right now in the market?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm really glad to hear that you were able to find our features and getting that dynamic pricing down. I mean, that's one of the things that Channable focuses on. I would say one of the things that we really do focus on is our customers' needs. So one thing that we do differently is that we're more of a self-service tool, I would say, than a managed service tool.
Definitely.
So that allows us to have a more competitive cost model than one of these other feed management systems that you might have. We like to call ourselves a marketing automation tool. We like to call ourselves a omni-channel solution. But if I were to sum it up, we try to get your data into the hands, into the places they need to be, and into the places where your customers are. So I would definitely say that Channable has a lot of features that are built in to get data optimized,
Yeah.
to get data cleaned, to get data fixed, and without having to edit or change anything in your back end. So you want to connect with Shopify, you want to connect with BigCommerce, you want to connect with Magento. Great. You don't have to touch anything and you don't have to change anything on your web shop. Just change it in Channable and you can have optimized data for Google Shopping, Amazon, Facebook Marketplace, anything like that.
What would you say is the most challenging platform to connect with? Like, who gives you the biggest kind of headache when it comes to integration?
Well, I would say we have a pretty open integration. Like we have a lot of integrations with major players in web shops, but I would also say that we can import custom XMLs, custom CSV, custom feeds. So we kind of have we want to give our customers the power to import what they need to import, and
Yeah.
we want to be channel agnostic. That's one of our main goals. We don't want to have a preference for your web shop. We don't want to have a preference for your connection. We want to have we want to be able to connect everything and everyone as much as possible.
Love it. So one of the key features that I, really came into with you guys, as I mentioned already, is the dynamic pricing and the dynamic search ads, right? And, how this works for those who haven't experienced this yet is the data feed is something that is, it comes in from your client. It can be modified. You can create new titles, optimize titles. There's a lot of rules that you can create. So if you know that a product, for example, in the title is a green shirt versus a blue shirt, and the color field isn't filled out yet, you can use a rule to make that title green. If it contains green, put that into a field that says color equals green. But you can also do that with things like headline and description. So if you know that there's certain fields in your data feed, so for example, if you have a product that is a green calfskin leather, patina feeling shoe, you can use the fields in the data feed to dynamically create a headline and then create a description. And you can create all 15 headlines for Google or bodies of text for those elements for the descriptions. And you can use dynamic elements to be able to create that. And the cool thing is you can actually do like an A version that has dynamic elements in it. And then if the dynamic elements fail, you have a B version that has like a default. So you never have an issue with something just not loading. And I'm telling you, trying to do that with a Google script. We had a client, there was $1 million account, and they were trying to make sure that their pricing was up to date. And it had to be up to date like almost every hour because they're very dynamic in how they price. And the biggest challenge that we had was the script that they were running when we got the account was failing over and over again. And so you would have prices that would be out of date showing on Google Ads, and it created a huge problem. And so we're like, okay, it's going to take us hours to fix this via Google script. Having to try to fix the script in there, bringing a separate data feed for the business data. And when you look at the Google ad campaign, you're dealing with, $1 million campaign, $250,000 of that is all, based on dynamic pricing that is broken. Right. And these guys were very aggressive with what they wanted to do, how they wanted to accomplish it. And you got to think there's a lot of pressure there. So when we found your guys' tool, we were able to then go in and create 15 dynamic headlines, make sure that we were pulling the price from the actual data feed. And as that price was updating, we set your guys' system to basically, I think it was every hour or every hour, every 2 hours, it basically re-scrubs the XML file that's coming in, updates the price, and then shows a new version in Google Ads and pauses the old version. And just that dynamic flexibility was insane. It was the ability to do it is something I've wanted to do forever. We actually had a RV dealership, and this is back in like 2018. We had an RV dealership that wanted to have their pricing show up in the search ads. And
Absolutely.
They wanted to make sure that we were doing like dynamic ads. They wanted to have like, different RV show because they had different inventory, had different specials. And we tried to do that through basically taking their data feed from Merchant Center, exporting that into a rule, and then creating rules that would basically do that using dynamic text. And the process was so labor intensive, it just ended up not being worth it. So what you guys brought to the table with that, it's really game changing and groundbreaking for people who have aggressive pricing or people who want to show their pricing, but they want to make sure it's accurate. Talk to me a little bit about kind of what you were doing in that tool that allows this to happen. You don't mean to give me the secret sauce, but like talk to me about how that was kind of developed and what you're doing in there that really kind of what makes it so special.
Yeah, well, one of the things that I will actually immediately say is that there really isn't a secret sauce per se. I mean, it's just all about a philosophy that comes from like a dynamic and a modular standpoint. The idea is that
I
we
can see
want
that.
everything to be automated. We want things that are in the correct fields. So one thing that you mentioned is like we don't know how to change these headlines, or maybe the data is not in places that we want. Well, Channable can search for that data. We can search for your data in your descriptions and try to export that to a different data field. Maybe your sizes are in your descriptions or the colors are in the descriptions. Maybe the colors are in your descriptions, but they're not matching what that marketplace needs. We
Yeah.
can easily write a rule that says, oh, I want my sun bright yellow to actually just say yellow because
Yeah.
Amazon's not going to accept sun bright. So
Right.
very easily we can convert things like that. And as long as that, and the best part is that that data doesn't have to get changed in your Shopify. It doesn't have to get changed anywhere else. It just gets changed on Channable and it just gets changed for Amazon. And
Yep.
your other feeds, you can easily copy those rules into other feeds if you want to adapt those, but you don't have to.
Yeah.
Another great example is we had a client, more speaking to our PPC capabilities and our tools. We had a client who was selling ebooks, like e-textbooks. And a lot of those textbooks, you need long tail ads. You need to have ISBNs. You need to have the absolute correct title, like the correct title slug, because people are going to be searching those exact titles, the
Yeah.
exact editions.
Yep.
So you need to have modular and dynamic headlines. And if the book's sold out, you don't want to be advertising it. You don't want those ad dollars going to waste.
Yep.
So this client, who was amazingly savvy with Google Ads, was able to dynamically create like a huge amount of campaigns and a huge amount of ad groups really quickly. They had all of their information separated, ISBN numbers, titles, title slugs, keywords, and they were able to generate these campaigns at scale. That's where a lot of our PPC tool helps, is that it happens at scale.
Yep.
If items are out of stock, all you have to do is set a simple rule that says if it's out of stock, exclude it. That means the next
Yep.
time the import runs, it pops out. It's automatic like that. And like you said, we have that running up to 24 times a day. So if your
Yeah.
items are volatile like that throughout the day, we'll take care of that. We'll do it every 5 minutes. Excuse me, every 24, every hour.
Every hour. Yeah. No, it's
Yeah.
crazy. And it really does work really well in that case. The one thing I will say that is interesting, and this is something I learned, going through the process, is if you're going to do the hourly update, you need to make sure you're using the Google Shopping API export, not the Google Shopping Direct Connect. So this is a weird function, but like if you go in and you set up your Google Shopping channel connector in Channable, like that is limited to what Google Shopping has as far as how many times it takes the data and brings it in. If you're going to send data out, you actually need to do it through a different one, which is a Google Shopping API connector, which allows you to force push that data that's updated through the API back into Google and not be dependent on Google pulling it. And that was a big learning phase that we had to go through. It really makes a big difference if you're someone who is, dependent on that pricing variant. Don't do it on a regular Google Shopping. It has to be the API connection. Otherwise, it doesn't work on the dynamic level. So that's an interesting and valuable thing that we learned going through our onboarding process with you guys. But it makes a huge difference. One thing you mentioned earlier is Amazon. So for those who don't know, I have a store that my wife and I built called Aegean Handmade. We sell Turkish towels that we import from Turkey. If you know me, you know I love to travel. And so we fell in love with this product and brought it in. Getting that product on Amazon, it is a bit of a nightmare. Not going to lie. Amazon is not an easy interface for delivering those products, right? So we, as a brand, Aegean Handmade is on Amazon, but we have like one product or two products max because it's so challenging. And there isn't really, from what I've found at least, an easy way to get your data out of Shopify into Amazon or even into Etsy with just a really simple connection. So talk to me about your guys' solutions with Amazon. How do users, I'm going to make another mark here. How do users who are wanting to get into Amazon, maybe have Shopify or one of these other website vendors, what is it that Channable does to help you to get into that Amazon space? And how are you guys simplifying that process for consumers?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's a great point that you have that Amazon is a little bit more difficult to get into because they have very stringent data requirements, right?
Yes.
And that is a big key that a lot of small businesses struggle with is they're like, well, I want to put my products on here, but I don't know, I'm going to see this giant XML or this giant Excel document that I have to fill out. And I don't really know, like I have to go between tabs on the Excel document to figure out what values are actually accepted by Amazon.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is, yeah, you could do that. but it would be way easier to use Channable's categorization to categorize your products correctly for Amazon, and then use our attribute builder, which is updated constantly. We already know from Amazon what is necessary. We know what fields are mandatory for Amazon. We know what needs to go in those fields, and we have descriptive text on each of those fields that gives you a hint as to what you need to fill in. Now, obviously, it does take a little bit of work. It's not like it's, Rome wasn't built in a day, so to speak.
Yeah.
But the biggest benefit you have there is that you have our support team that will help you. And Channable in the US especially is more than happy to set up your feeds, is more than happy to be there. We have a phone line that's available all day long. We have world-class support that's available to you. Our usual response time, I will say, is less than 8 hours.
Yeah.
But in actuality, I say we're a self-service tool, but one of the differentiators is that we want you to be successful. So
Right.
if you ever have any questions about a rule, or if you ever have a question about Amazon that's like, I don't know exactly how I'm getting these colors into the right field, or I don't
Yep.
know if my description is coming correctly, or let's say you've already started exporting to Amazon and you've got these errors coming from Amazon, which we have descriptions for in the tool, but maybe you're like, okay, I kind of get it, but
Yeah.
maybe I'm not understanding what I need to do to fix this. Our support team is there to answer, to write a rule to fix it for you, to figure it out with you. We
Exactly.
want to make sure you get on Channable and you get set up, because the idea is it's an automated platform. You set it up, and if the
It
rules are all
continues to work
correct,
for you.
it works for you. You
Yeah.
don't want to touch it after a while. If there are major changes, we can help you with that. But otherwise, we want to make sure you can set it and forget it, kind of like that old Ronco oven
Right.
slogan.
Oh yeah.
Set it and forget it.
In SmartTech, for those who don't know, we are a certified partner with Channable. So if there are people out there who are like, man, I need to get on Amazon, I need to get in Google Shopping, I got this Shopify account, but I don't think it's really going to work. Let us know. Our team here at SmartTech specializes in the stuff that people hate to do. We specialize in Google Analytics. We specialize in HubSpot tracking. We specialize in reporting. We specialize in Channable feed manipulation and modification. It's what we do. And it's a really interesting niche because we deal with the stuff that people just absolutely do not want to have to deal with, right? So if you guys are interested and want to know how you can get your Amazon data feed into Amazon, or your Shopify data feed into Amazon, talk to us. Let us know, because taking that Shopify data and having a central place to parse that information into a new feed that you can then send to Etsy, send to Amazon, send to other places in the marketplace can be a game changer for your business. So let's talk about it. Let's see what that option looks like. So with your guys' system, are there anything on the precipice as far as Amazon paid ads or Amazon Marketplace? Not Walmart Marketplace, pardon me. Like the marketplace that Google has right now has been it had a really large amount of hype, and then it kind of slowed down there for a little bit. So talk to me about Marketplace and how you guys are handling the marketplace economy. And then talk to me a little bit about how you guys are, what you're bringing to the table. Because there's some cool new stuff you guys are bringing here pretty quick.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, one thing I'll talk about that is on the precipice now, especially, is paid social. Paid
Okay.
social is a huge thing that is moving forward, and we've noticed that our clients are asking. I mean, a lot of our clients use they use Channable to export to Facebook. A lot
Yep.
of our clients use Channable to export to Pinterest. And one thing that we've got in beta right now, coming up right now, is TikTok Shops. Because
Oh,
TikTok
okay.
Shops just announced that you can shop on the TikTok platform, and we are integrating. So if you want to get your items onto the TikTok Shop, and even have an order connection, get those items to come back into your Shopify. We're in a beta program for that right now.
Oh,
Um,
man. That's really
Another
cool.
big, yeah, absolutely. And I'm really excited to see that, because I know TikTok Shops has been one of the highest grossing. I mean, we were just talking about trade shows earlier, and we were at a trade show earlier this year, and TikTok owned the floor. I mean, they had a massive place. It is a massive marketplace in the US, and it's not going anywhere anytime soon.
And so
Um,
how are you guys approaching the Facebook shop updates that are coming next year?
That's a great question too, because that's something that we've seen. We're also working on an integration with Facebook's checkout. I know Facebook checkout and Instagram checkout is coming.
Yep.
It's pretty much going to be mandatory for anyone
It,
who has a Facebook shop by next
oh,
year.
real quick, just if you don't know that and you're listening to this podcast, that is the one thing you should take away from this podcast is that there is a huge update coming that Facebook has been trying to notify people about. Can you give a little more detail on that? Because I think it's a big point to be able to really kind of mention.
Yeah, absolutely. Facebook Shops already announced, actually, as of August 16th, that any new shops will only be available if you sign up for checkout on Instagram and checkout on Facebook. And
Yep.
any existing shops will need to have checkout on Instagram or Facebook enabled by, I believe the date is April 21st, I think is the date.
Yeah. That
So
sounds
that's a
right.
huge thing. Our focus on Facebook right now is getting that integration with the order connection, because as of now you can send a feed to Facebook using Channable,
Mm-hmm.
uh, but they have a limited, since it just came out of beta, they have a limited amount of partners that you can use to actually get your orders back into like your web shop. I believe
Right.
Shopify is one of them. But even if you have a Shopify connection, we can still act as a supplemental data feed to make sure the data is actually flowing and to make sure to optimize your titles, optimize your descriptions, remove anything that needs to be removed. So we still work with it, but we want to be the one-stop shop. So we are working on an order connection with Facebook and Instagram.
Now, in your eyes, how do you see that being different from what you currently have available, like within the Shopify direct apps?
So the thing with Shopify is that you have to kind of treat Shopify as the single source of truth.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want to optimize your titles or if you want to test things,
Yep.
you don't want to be changing your titles on Shopify multiple times to see what's going on. If you have a title that works on Shopify, but that's not working on Facebook, why shouldn't you have the flexibility to change that? Or why shouldn't you have the flexibility to experiment?
Well,
A
also the
big part of
SEO risk.
Exactly. A big part of it is putting that marketing strategy in your hands instead of having to rely on the direct connection.
So let me try to summarize that a little bit. Because I do a lot of Google Shopping training and a lot of data feed training and a lot of implementation for that. After 15 years of doing this, I've been in Google Shopping for a long time, and I try to explain it to customers who ask this way: if you're Nike, right, you have a product on your site that says Nike Air Force One. That's your title on your website, right? And it may not even say Nike, it just may say Air Force One. But if you're Google, that's not good enough. For your title in Google, they don't want to see just Air Force One. It isn't good enough. So if you think about, if you wanted to optimize your title for Facebook or optimize your title for Google, right? You would say Nike bar Air Force One bar size 11 bar blue turquoise bar patent patina leather bar, whatever, right? You can make your titles limited, but you want to make sure they're detailed. You want to make sure that you're kind of loading it up with quality. And you're same with your descriptions. If you put that same title on Nike's website, not only would it look like garbage, but it would probably have a dramatic impact on their SEO because you're not telling it, you're basically keyword stuffing from an SEO standpoint, right? You'd probably have a dramatic
Exactly.
impact on your SEO in a negative way because you're going against your SEO best practices by keyword stuffing your title on your site. You would not, if you're the guy managing this at Nike. And we actually know the guy who runs Nike's paid ads. He was a previous employee of ours, and he's great. But I tell you what, now he would not put Nike blue steel Air Force One's 50 character title as the product title on Nike's website. It would look like trash. So why would you do that on your Shopify site just so you could have it be mirroring into your data feed? You don't want to do that. You want to make sure that your website is optimized for one thing, your data feed is optimized for another thing. And what you may find is that having a 50 character title versus having a 25 character title, you may get extremely different performance results by having a dynamic difference in your title. Your description, it needs to be changed often to understand what is happening. Different variables in your description. If you take your description from your website and just carbon copy it over and you never change it, good freaking luck.
Exactly. And I
It
think
is
one thing that you're
insane.
mentioning too is that, I mean, it's all about the user experience, right?
It is.
And the idea is that you have omni-channel, you want the user to be able to work like on different channels, but
Yep.
why wouldn't you want to craft the user experience for every channel? You want to make sure your website has the most ideal user experience possible, but you also
Yep.
want to make sure that when they see that ad on Google or somewhere else, that you're also being able to control that and manipulate that to a T.
Yeah, it's a super valuable the lesson, and we get this question a lot. Well, I already have Shopify; they're handling my data feed. I send a direct API into Google Shopping, and we get in and we see that performance and how it performs and how often it's showing, and then we test it when we're doing the testing in Channable, and it's amazing to see the differences. And oftentimes, what we'll do for like shoe sizes is we'll set up different titles on different shoe sizes so that we can test the same product, but a size 7 will have a 15 character headline. A size 10 will have a 25 character headline. A size 11 will have a 50 character headline, whatever we can max it out at, right? And you can look at those variables and pull an item report, assuming you're not using PMAX, because PMAX is garbage for reporting. If you haven't realized that, you don't know what you're doing. PMAX is horrible for reporting. You can't see the details. It's a complete black box. And so running smart shopping campaigns or shopping campaigns naturally, you can run those item IDs and you can see exactly what's happening. And you can see that, the shoe sizes that are all 11 have much better performance than the ones that are size 7. And it isn't just because it's a larger size, it's because you're optimizing those titles differently. So that's just one of the things I usually try to get across to people who are trying to consider data feed management. Why should I invest the money? It isn't just about having your data feed, be through another third party or being able to distribute it out to other systems. You want to make sure that you're optimizing it differently per system. So with that message in mind, talk to us a little bit about maybe an insider tip. What is it that you're seeing that is a good recommendation if you're optimizing a title for Facebook versus Google, and how should those look as far as a differentiation from your standpoint as a technical advisor? What do you see most likely as different between those two titles when you're trying to optimize a product?
So I would say a Facebook title might be more descriptive, actually. So
Okay.
in the meantime, well, you're going to say, oh, Google wants to have a brand, the title, the size, and then maybe one feature.
Yep.
Facebook's probably going to have something like brand, title, size, material, maybe
Mm-hmm.
the color even in the Facebook. Google doesn't, for Google, yes, it's all about optimization, but if it's too long, it's going to get lost in the chaff.
Yep.
You kind of want to
Because
a little
Google
bit
cuts it
more on
off in the feed,
Facebook.
right? Like it actually cuts it off halfway through when you look at the shopping.
Exactly, exactly. So those Google ads are kind of tiny, but Facebook ads, you want to entice a little bit more. So you want to make
Yeah.
sure that you're going, and you're also speaking to your users, right? The users on Facebook might skew a little bit older right now. So you want
Yep.
to make sure that those titles are as descriptive as possible.
Wait a minute. You're telling me there's not 20-year-olds on Facebook? What?
I don't think so. I mean, maybe there are, but not any of the 20-year-olds that I
Yeah,
know.
right. So speaking of optimization and data feed, so one of the things that we wanted to talk about that I think is really interesting for the market is Google recently came to us and said, hey, we're going to give you a warning that there is too much descriptive text, promotional text in your headline and your descriptions, and you need to cut it out or we're going to suspend these products. And this was a really weird alert for us. We're like, what the hell are they talking about? And at the time, I reached out to our team, our partner team here, and I said, are you guys seeing this through anybody else? And they weren't. And it was one of those things where we're like, okay, well, I don't know how long this is going to take. Little behold, before we were even able to schedule the podcast to talk about this and like teach people how to fix this before it hit, we got penalized with the extraneous promotional text hit. And I've never seen this on any other account. It was insane. But essentially what it is, for those of you who don't know, and I'll actually share my screen real quick. There is a article that talks about this. So if you're watching on the video, you can see my screen. There are now starting to enforce a element called the extraneous remove extraneous text such as promotions from this value, we are actually seeing accounts that are getting hit by this. And what it is essentially is if you have in your title or description best price guarantee, 30-day money back guarantee, or free shipping, it is actually seeing that as extraneous money or extraneous promotional text. And in like one of the ads that we had wasn't even one of these three. It was actually a percentage off. So it was, I'll use 20% off, but it was listed in the title, not in the promotional text field or as a promotional attribute. So it's really interesting that this is starting to come to play. And again, this is something we've not seen happen with any other client, but it is definitely coming down the line, and Google is starting to enforce this. So what I asked our team to do, I asked Gianfranco to take a look at if this populates in your MCC or your Google Merchant Center, and you are seeing this warning, what can you do to prepare for the update? Because obviously you don't want to just react and take off your percentage discount, because if you're going against competitors who have it in their ads and they're not being penalized, you're going to voluntarily take yourself out of the market. So you don't want to necessarily be ahead of the game, but you don't want to necessarily get caught, metaphorically with your pants down and not be able to act quickly. So what we talked about was a way that you can use this as an opportunity to safeguard yourself. So I'm gonna let Gianfranco share his screen and show you guys how to prepare for this so that you don't get caught, unexpectedly.
Yeah, absolutely. Pop this up right now. So this is an example of some of the rules that you'll see in Channable. So let's say, to use your example, we had I'm just using the rule for free shipping, right? And if there's free shipping anywhere in the title, we're using one of these replace rules where we're just looking for the words free shipping and we're replacing it with a blank text. Now, what you'll notice about this item too is the rule itself, if I hit save, you'll see all of the items that it's affecting. So if I actually look at these selected items, I'll see, okay, I don't see free shipping anywhere in my titles, but I can actually take a look before this rule and see where my title has free shipping in the title. And it looks like it's actually not even affecting all of my items. These 4 items are not actually getting affected.
Yep.
So what's nice about this rule, and I think that this is kind of what we did as a test, is I can pause this rule, right? Which means, I'll look at these items. Afterwards, I'll go to my next rule because the rules cascade. And I can see free shipping is still there. But what we could do is we can pause this rule. We know this rule works. And we can say, hey, we know this rule will work. We know our titles are optimized for when we need them to be optimized. But we're not going to do it until they basically take our error down. So what we would do in that case is, I think we had an item that we tested. We just like A/B tested. We had one item that wasn't performing very well. We took up to out of the description. And sure enough, that item did not have an error when they.
It was like the one item that was still online when everything else got taken down.
Exactly. So all you do, come into Channable, unpause the rule, hit save, run your feed, and there you go. You're back to normal. And
now we have this as a title, but we could actually run this exact same thing, one for a title, one for descriptions, pause them both, and then activate the title once we get hit with the penalty. And then if that doesn't resolve it, activate the description one. And that way you're not just arbitrarily taking a large percentage, value proposition out of both arbitrarily, but you can actually test it and take it out of one. Does it make sense? Does it actually fix the problem? And if it does, don't even activate the description one because it's not required, right? So the thing about Google is that Google is going to be very ambiguous. They're not going to be explicit in what they're telling you. And you have to kind of try to understand where the gray line is that Google is expecting you to not cross versus when are you overcompensating, right? And I think that's, for me, one of the things that people oftentimes do when it comes to Google is they overcompensate because they don't understand the limits And so I would recommend actually setting one up that's a title based, and then one that's a description based. And then when you get hit by this, reactivate the unpause the title version, run the campaign so you can run the feed so you can get Google back to review your products. Once it's been reviewed, if that doesn't fix the problem, go ahead and activate the description replacement. And if that fixes the problem, then you know it was actually in your description. But it gives you ability to make sure you're not overcompensating unnecessarily.
Exactly. And I've got a description rule set up here that removes something that says up to 70% off.
Yep.
Something that's I found in the description. I'm saying, oh, if the description contains up to, let me hit save. Oh, looks like only 4 of my items have up to. So if I click before this rule, I can see, oh, looks like these 4 items have up to 70% off in there. And I'm like, you know what? I want to remove that. So I use this search and replace value, which searches for this exact text and again replaces it with an empty text. This is kind of to show off that there are many rules in Channable that can be used in many different ways.
Yep.
It's a really nice set of tools to have at your disposal. And something that I'll even show here is we kind of talked about that title optimization. So if I go ahead and hit save here and we look at my titles before,
Yep.
yeah, I'm looking at a shirt. The design is NY Taxi. Great. Or the design is called Celt. And that's in my title. That's not very descriptive. I
Nope.
mean, someone's going to search NY Taxi on Google. They're not going to see my shirt.
They're going to see New York taxi opportunities.
Exactly.
Very, very different.
But what I've done here is we've parted out all of these parts of the title. We've parted out the brand, the gender, the title, and the product type. I hit save and I look at these items. Now we've got a D-Rack Boys New York Taxi t-shirt, and I can even add more. I can add less onto it. And this is now a much better title that will show up on Google. I know I want
you
to
can even add size to there. So if you have size large, size 7 kids.
Exactly. And I just showed you with a couple of fields. I mean, but again, like you can look into the items or pull sizes or items from the description, and the opportunities are really limitless with this kind of tooling.
Love it. Now, what is the image rules? That's a newer one that I have actually not played with too much.
That's a great call, actually, which is speaking of paid social, which is what we were talking about before.
Yep.
We now have an image editor that you can use.
Oh.
This account that I'm using does not have a creative plan added here.
Okay.
But what I can tell you is you can use an image editor. We now have an image editor specifically for our feeds. So, for example, Google tells you we want the most plain image ever, right? We want it on a plain white background. We can't have anything on there. So, if you have images that are not on a plain white background, or maybe you have an image that you don't quite, maybe there's a border on it or something, well, you can use our image editor to just zoom in the tiniest bit, exclude the border, and now you've got a working image for Google. On the opposite side, we see lots of people like borders, text, promotional text on images for things like Facebook or Pinterest or TikTok. So,
those do really well on those channels.
Exactly. And we heard that we've seen and heard from our clients that that's a huge thing that they want, especially because we've heard that other image editing tools in bulk, the cost can be really expensive because we know how much it costs to host those images prior and after the editing. So we've added this as something that you can add on to your account. It's one of the great strengths that we have as well, where we have modular pricing, where
which is pretty cool.
You can try the image editor for 30 days. If you like it, great, you keep it on your account. If you're finding that it's not really working for your marketing strategy, pop it off. You don't have to sign up for anything. We're contractless. It's month-to-month subscription and very flexible.
Interesting. Okay. So this is kind of a left field question. Have you guys looked at like ChatGPT for different kind of text recommendations, or like a smart text recommendation function to be able to use in like when you're doing feed rules and trying to create new descriptions and such?
That's a great question. We actually just hired a machine learning team that is going to be thinking about using AI. Right now, the only AI involvement we have in the tool is our smart categorization, which
Okay.
means if you're categorizing items, and I can show you our categorization rules right here. Um, if you're categorizing items, what we'll do is we will look at one specific field in your item and we'll make a guess. And if our model is 80% sure that it belongs to a specific category, it will automatically categorize it. So
Interesting.
in this example, I have all manual rules, but I've actually copied, I've run smart categorization on an account that does have this enabled, and I've copied these rules over. So we're just analyzing the product category that's coming in from your Shopify, your Lightspeed, your Magento, and we're saying, oh, we think this category actually fits. And for these, it pretty much fits. I'll tell you, Google categories are pretty broad,
Yeah.
but
Very
boys
broad.
t-shirts, apparel and accessories, clothing, shirts and tops, perfect, fits. Boys trousers goes into pants. And obviously, the more clients who use this, the better our model will get and the
Okay.
more succinct it will get for clients in the future. But yeah, to answer your question about ChatGPT and AI text, I think the biggest thing that we like to say is like everyone's pretty cautious about using AI. So we are looking into it in the future. But again, um, a lot of our philosophy is about putting that marketing control in your hands. And we
Right.
all know that placing it into PMAX is great for products that are already performing great. But when you want that granular control to
Yep.
boost those products that aren't performing great, it's much better to have a bit of a manual, a human touch to it, so to speak.
And speaking of PMAX and kind of the limitations, uh, just for clarity for everybody's knowledge, when you guys are running, the feeds, there's nothing coming back to you guys as far as more information or more data than Google gives to the API, right? Like you guys aren't getting like proprietary knowledge back from PMAX campaigns that regular Google people aren't, correct?
No, we aren't getting proprietary knowledge. What I'll tell you actually is a use case that we have for PMAX and PPC. We have a use case where we have clients who will use their Google Analytics and something that we have called Channable Insights, where we'll pull in data from Google Analytics to calculate your ROAS, to calculate your bounce rate, to calculate your impression rate, and we'll use that to segment your products accordingly, right? I know one of
Interesting.
the
Okay.
one of the ways that or one of the design philosophies around marketing is you're placing already great performing products in PMAX. So anything that has a high return on ad spend, you're segmenting those products at scale and placing them into a PMAX campaign to eke out just a bit more performance that the Google's model can give you in that PMAX campaign. But for your products that aren't performing that well, you put them into another DSA or you put them into another campaign where you're controlling, you're A/B testing headlines, you're seeing what works. And what's great about it is, again, it's automated, which means you can have rules that say, oh, I found something that really works for my products. The return on ad spend has shot up to such a level that now it's being pushed instead of in the dynamic campaign, it's getting pushed into the PMAX campaign. So now it's going to get boosted even further from where I
Hmm.
already was. And your dynamic campaign, if there's anything that falls out of like a good return on ROAS from your PMAX, now it's going to go into that dynamic campaign. And now you can kind of focus on getting it back up to that ROAS level that you wanted at.
So what you're saying, just to summarize, is you can set up basically like a categorization rule that deviates your products into high performing, low performing, and if you have products that are already performing quite high, you can segment those into a PMAX campaign, and if not performing well, it'll come out of the PMAX campaign. So in your eyes, what if you're taking something from a standard shopping campaign and moving it into PMAX, is there a risk in your eyes of that product starting to see a decline in performance because it's been running on shopping standard? You move it into PMAX, and now it has to have a whole different attribution model, a whole different category as far as what it's showing, where it's showing, the creatives and everything. And then Standard shopping is a lot more heavy on Google Shopping, whereas PMAX is a lot broader in where it shows. So do you typically see in this kind of model where that high ROAS product ends up having challenges as you move it into PMAX?
I would say it really depends because, again, this all depends on how you're categorizing the products. You can obviously segment in high performer and low performer,
Yep.
but maybe you want to segment even further. Maybe you want high performing tabletop items, high performing kitchen essentials, or you have high performing sweaters and high performing. You can segment that further to however you'd like. And if you know it's going to work, it will work. But the idea is that the automation is there so that you have a little bit more control, you have a little bit more idea of where that product is going. And ideally, when you find that good trend, you can maybe even apply that to other PMAX products or other low performing products.
Interesting. Yeah, we did something similar with an example where we built a campaign leveraging basically shoe sizes. We took a standard shoe size, like a 7, right? Like everyone wears like a size 7. And anything that was a size 7, we put into basically a custom label. And that custom label got sectioned into all our PMAX campaigns. And then anything that wasn't a size 7, we ran on standard shopping. Just to understand if we had other product SKUs that were essentially the same item but just a different size, could we get Google to optimize differently for those product sizes versus your standard 7 or size 8, which automatically has an easier time selling because more people have smaller feet than a size 15, right? We've looked at that same kind of categorization that way, and that was a really interesting test with some really interesting ROAS numbers that came out of that. But what you're talking about is a little different because it's actually segmenting based on performance, based on ROAS, and trying to use PMAX as an accelerator for already performing campaigns or performing products, and then using standard shopping to try to get those products to perform, which I think is a really interesting way to look at PMAX and look at data feeds as a way to kind of manipulate PMAX in a way.
Exactly. Because, like you said, PMAX is kind of controlled by Google.
Yep.
They've got
Black
all of
box.
the modeling. They've got all of the information, and all we can look at is the analytics and the data that's coming out of it, right? We can say, oh wow, this is performing well. So the idea is maybe using that to really get a better idea of how you want to market your products and what performs well. And again, using Google's ability to get that extra boost
Yeah.
is the ideal.
Now, do you have any examples of the analytics integration that you talked about where you actually can use the Google Analytics connection to make better decisions based on certain product performance? Because I know with Google Analytics, Universal Analytics, that was something you guys had brought in. But one, do you have an example of that? And two, is GA4 and its new standard affecting you guys in any way?
No, we've actually completely migrated over to GA4. We actually no longer support Universal Analytics.
Makes sense.
But for GA4, no, actually, I actually just recently had a client who they have like a zombie campaign kind of going where they've got things that are getting 0 impressions or 0 clicks and they're getting marked as zombies. They're getting kind of put to the side. And what's nice is you can even use Channable to make a report almost on those items to say, okay, these are getting 0. Maybe these are the ones that kind of need a little bit more attention, or these are the ones that we need to focus on a little bit more. But for all of the other products, they were split into high performers based on high performance. There are high performance, like just a high performance, but they've already got like specialty campaigns. So anything that's in a specialty campaign for their sweaters or their shirts or their shoes is in a specialty campaign, but everything else goes into that one top level high performing campaign, like pants or anything that fits into anything that doesn't fit into the other categories.
Interesting. Yeah, it's fascinating. A really good way to approach that too, because it is a lot more segmented. So as an example of one of the ways we used Channable for another client, we had a really large pet product, pet bed, pet beds, pet food, pet care, pet toys, and they were a huge, huge company. But what we found is that a lot of their items didn't have a huge repeat purchase rate, and they were like $1.50 to $5. So you would have to get a really, really low CPC in order to have those products actually get any sort of return to help fund the campaign, right? But you had their dog beds, which were getting like $125 to $150 average order values. You could sell a couple of dog beds and make your profit on that. But if you went and optimized everything for a $5 product and you let Google just decide, it's going to deprioritize those $5 products, right? So in Channable, we actually created a custom label using price as our delineator and said anything between these bucket ranges, we're going to put into a custom label. And then we built campaigns focused on those custom labels, and we really deprioritize. So really, we were looking at like, for our $5 to $25 products, those were not going into any Google campaign. 25 to 50, we were looking for a 1x return. And then anything that was 50 to 200, we were looking for a 2x, right? And just depending on their needs, we're trying to get the products that have a high repeat rate to get those at least optimized at a 1. And anything that had a very low repeat rate but a high profit margin, those were being optimized with like a 2.5 to a 3x ROAS, right? But leveraging your guys' system to really optimize those hit points and create different data sets based on pricing, it makes a huge difference in what decisions you can make from a campaign build standpoint.
Absolutely. And I think one of the things that I will actually say that was one of the learnings that we actually pulled from the Amazon Ads event recently, Unboxed here in New York, was that marketing budget, a lot of it is marketing budgets are split, right? You want to set the most money towards your high performing products. You want to make sure you're getting the most return on ad spend, but lots of clients have like a 20% or a 10% set aside for what's called test and learn.
Yep.
Right? And that's where they're going to say, oh, this is where we're going to test long tail, products, long tail divisions. And this is where we're going to test specific things, specific keywords, specific negative keywords, and specific descriptions and headlines for certain products. And we'll see where it goes. And it's kind of an ongoing cycle. Again, it's all about moving things up and down, and it's going to happen. I mean, you never know. What if something goes viral and all of a sudden you have one product that goes crazy viral?
Yep.
Your marketing budget should go to that product. Yeah. But I mean, you want to throw that into PMAX right away. So they're going to make sure it gets absolutely sent there.
Yep.
Meanwhile, you can maybe use that as like a keyword to pull in that viral product, some kind of keyword from that viral product to boost another product that you don't see a really good return on ad spend.
Right. It's funny you say that because we actually had a product where it was a Nike product that was discontinued, but all of a sudden went viral, and it was all over like TikTok or socials because our search volume on it went over like through the roof. But when you go to the landing page, it's a discontinued product. So it hit and it's not even available in the market anymore. So, it's one of those things where if you had been aggressively advertising for that and you saw the landing page live, but it just said, hey, this isn't available anymore, you could be spending a ton of money on a product that you can't actually sell the product. So like those things are interesting to watch and see how that plays out too.
Exactly. And Channable's automation comes in there. I mean, if we see an item, you can easily set a rule. If we see an item go out of stock, or if we see an item that's no longer available, we'll immediately take it out and make it so that you're not spending ads on something that someone can't buy.
So does that help like in marketplace situations where like you're selling it across, you have one item inventory, it's being sold across Google, Facebook, it's being sold across, in Walmart marketplace, Google's marketplace. You don't want to have that product go out and have it get sold on Amazon or Walmart when you just sold it on Google and now it's no longer available. Is that inventory and out of stock modification, you can control that across different feeds, right? So you don't, it's not just like per one feed. You can actually control that, it goes out of stock and now you put a stop notice on all 6 feeds, right?
Exactly. So what we would do in that case is there's something called an order connection, right? So we're going to pull your orders from marketplaces that we support, and we're going to send them back to your web shop. And that means you get stock updates in real time. It means every 5 minutes we're checking for new orders, we're checking for stock updates, and we're sending those to the marketplace. You have something that's sent, you have your centralized stock in your Shopify or your Lightspeed, and all of it goes to Amazon. Those listings will come off of eBay, or they'll at least get updated to say this product is out of stock, so no one will accidentally buy it. Yeah. Having that connection is very, very key to a lot of our clients' setups.
As a small business owner, having my towels, I only have so many products, right? And for me to have to worry about having that get sold on eBay, having it get sold on Amazon, having it get sold on Etsy, and having it sold on my website, and not having that blue ribbon, towel that I can sell anymore. If it gets sold in the same place in the same day and I only have one, I'm screwed, right? Like I only have one inventory. And so you have to then refund the client and deal with complaints. So to have that kind of automation in play where you don't have to deal with that as a manual effort as a business owner, so helpful. Like it's insane. My goodness.
Absolutely.
So we're getting to the hour mark, and I'm sure everyone has been enthralled by this very wonderfully detailed conversation. But is there anything else that you want to end just with, any kind of updates that you guys have or promotions that you guys are doing that people should know about? Anything at all?
I think, I guess one thing that I haven't mentioned this whole time, especially since we've been speaking about Amazon and since we mentioned we went to Unboxed, is that the other thing that we've just recently launched a few weeks ago is support for Amazon product ads.
Okay.
So now you can use Channable to list your products on Amazon, to make sure the stock is managed correctly with your web shop, and you can use it to generate Amazon product ads at scale. That's part of our
Oh,
new
wow.
PPC tool offering. So we kind of want to be, the one-stop solution for a lot of our clients. So if you're interested, please let us know. And one other thing I'll mention is we say we're a self-service product, but our support team is one of the world, again, best in class support.
Yep.
And we are always want to be helpful, and we're always attentive to our clients' needs.
Absolutely. And as SmartTech, we're here to help take the confusion behind data feeds and what's going on with data feeds and help you to simplify that process. Because obviously we speak this language, we can work with their team directly on your behalf and make sure that you're seeing that scale without having to learn a whole new language of data feed manipulation. So thank you for everyone's time. We really appreciate it. Gianfranco, thank you for your time. I can
Thanks for having me.
definitely see a lot of people getting a lot of value out of this, and we really appreciate you taking that time. But thank you for everyone. I hope you guys have enjoyed this podcast. And if you would like to stay tuned on the next one, we're going to be having more spotlights with different partners of ours. But if you want to get a hold of us, you can go ahead and get a hold of me at brian@smarttech.company. Gianfranco is with Channable, and you can go to Channable's site. If you're interested in Channable, let me know. We can definitely get you some updated pricing, get you in with the team and see what kind of updates we can get you as far as get you onboarded based on your needs. Other than that, thank you for everyone's time. We really appreciate you. Thank you much.
Thank you very much.